Okay, part two. Good. Quote integrated with page number. It's a new word for an old process. To integrate the world. This is not a good link with the past. Process is the thing we're talking about, so you could say that integrates the word into one unit in many respects. The article has not been introduced, so you can't use the definite article. You should use the indefinite article, which is in an article by Elwood. In an article by Elwood, and then the contents of the article. This is not the correct way to do it. It would be better to say Elwood 2001 states that the process of globalization has sped up in the past 50 years. Okay, something similar can be found in Longman 2000 work. This is dictionary. So dictionary is not normally described as work. But you could say Longman 2000 adds two more conditions. So you said the benefits are only because of communication around work, which can bring a number of benefits. This is not a very good topic sentence because I think you're trying to say there are some benefits, but you've said there are only benefits around communication of work. Okay, this point, KFC, Starbucks, and McDonald's, this could be considered a positive or a negative, and it is not only about communication around work. Oh, sorry, I read that as work, it says world. But communication and food spreading and food culture spreading, I'm not quite sure if all of that falls under communication. This is about the spread of culture, not the spread of communication. Skype is an example of improved communication, or Facebook. So topic sentence could be better, even though I read it as world rather than work rather than world. Who writes about the sad reality of globalization. Okay, but one of the points, this is a classic IELTS ending, one of the points about globalization is that if there are few barriers between countries, each government cannot take action to control its drawbacks because the problems go beyond each government. The environment, for example, the British government could build wind farms, but that doesn't mean anything if a government in another country builds more power plants that use coal, for example. So this is not a particularly good end sentence, especially for a synthesis, because this is kind of your own opinion, and it's not based on any evidence or any argument. But overall, it looks like you've managed to synthesize, so well done. Okay, this is very good synthesis, well done. I don't know if besides is very good. It tends to be more a kind of spoken style, so try to use a better word than besides. Brings us bad effects is not terribly academic. Also has some negative impacts, might be better. Bad sides, not very academic. Okay, broadly speaking, that is a good synthesis, well done. Okay, globalization can be defined as, you need a reference for that. The full stop needs to be after this if you want this reference to count for the previous sentence. Similarly, it is said that, and here you have a quote, but you don't have an end to the quote. You don't have a mark here, and you don't have a reference here. So this is a kind of plagiarism, be careful. Spelling? The result, food globalization. Now, I know you're summarizing, but if the reader has not read the source, what does food globalization mean? Is it the fact that rather than growing corn in England, they grow corn in America and then send it overseas? It doesn't really make sense that food globalization contributed a lot to English food in the past 500 years. That's not actually what he said. He said something quite different, so you've kind of twisted the meaning. Be very careful when you're using writers that you interpret their meaning wrongly. What he said was that the globalization of the food industry and the spread of food culture has been the best thing to happen to English food in the past 500 years. And that should really be a quote, because the best thing to happen to English food in the past 500 years is not something you can paraphrase, because it's kind of like a joke. So you need to keep the joke intact. So this is quite a bad example, and you need a full stop there as well. Widen, not widening. This is not a good addition. Might have a negative influence on local culture, causes damage to the ecosystem. Biological is an adjective. You need biology, but it's the wrong word. Okay, so this is quite a bad sentence. It doesn't really work very well. There's wrong words, and it's not a very good grammar construction for what you're trying to do. The full stop needs to be on the other side, and similarly, good. You're able to combine things together, but you've got quite a few problems with this paragraph, so I think it would be better to review it if possible. This is not an essay. This is a kind of synthesis, so you don't need an introduction here. Particularly a one-sentence introduction is not that effective. Now, you're saying globalization is the trend for the world to work as one unit, not only economically, but also in cultural and political aspects. Okay. You don't have a reference for that, and you're saying is, so you're not hedging at all. Now, when giving a definition, it's better to hedge, to say globalization can be described as a trend for the world to work as one unit. Otherwise, you're saying that is the definition, so hedging is required here. Okay, so you're talking about the positive side, but the process of globalization, blah blah, spread a homogeneous and largely commercial culture. Now, you put that in the positives, but for most British people, we would think that a homogeneous and largely commercial culture would be a bad thing. Barbie dolls, fast food restaurants, hip hop music spreading to every country in the world, that is not something that the writer thinks is a positive thing. So be careful putting something that somebody thinks is negative into the positive category. A global shopping centre where ideas and products are available. Meanwhile doesn't make any sense, that's the wrong word. But nobody wants a global shopping centre. Suggestions is the wrong word here. Okay, good, you're synthesizing, good. Okay, this doesn't make sense. You've got opposite sides above, doesn't make sense either. It doesn't describe two. Globalization is removing cultural, economic, and political limits to exploitation. Exploitation is a bad thing, so if you remove limits, that makes things worse. Although some negative points are involved in this process. Okay, this last sentence, the meaning is actually opposite. Well, the meaning you think you have is opposite. If globalization removes limits to exploitation, that's a very, very bad thing. And then you've got although negative points. So if you said although positive points are involved in this process, that would make sense. But point is not a good word here. Wrong word, I think. So not bad, but some problems with meaning here and here. Remember, if the meaning is wrong at master's level, that's extremely serious. More serious than a few grammar mistakes. So do check the meaning of what you've written. Okay, according to Elwood, illustrate. We can't have according to and a reference word, so check that. Okay, and then you've got Elwood, and then you've got the business dictionary for the same comment, it seems. Okay. Oh no, you haven't, sorry. You've got your quote here, and then you've got the can be defined as. So that's okay, but using the word illustrate can't be done here. I don't think you need two people. It makes it sound too casual. Again, this is the wrong message from that. It said the best thing to happen to English cooking in the past 500 years. That means in all of the past 500 years, this is the best thing. So it's better than the potato, it's better than sliced bread. Having food from every corner of the globe available in England is the best thing for England. That's kind of a joke to suggest that English food is bad. Points out. Okay, good. Good synthesis here. Well done. Sufficient literature. What is sufficient literature? Trade barriers is plural. So what's your countable, uncountable agreement here? Spelling, be careful. Okay, if you're going to put them together like this, it's okay, but they have to be saying the same point. So you could put Elwood where Elwood speaks, and then dictionary where dictionary speaks. If they're making exactly the same point, you can put it together. There brings, okay, this situation brings a significant number of advantages. Okay, good, that's better as a quote, well done. Don't just put 8 by itself, page 8, when it's alone like this. Otherwise it could mean 8 something else. The global exchange will never stopping. Okay, grammar is wrong here, and I don't think this is true, the global exchange will never stop. If there's a third world war, the global exchange will certainly stop, so you need to hedge this. I'm not suggesting that there will be a third world war, but basically we need to hedge. You can't say that something will always happen. And I don't think that globalization will always happen because it leads to a better quality of life. You could argue that the rich corporations won't let it stop because they benefit. But I don't think that globalization happens because people want a better quality of life. This was one of the claims in one of the sources, but you haven't referenced it. So this doesn't quite fit and it doesn't quite make sense. Okay, last one. Okay, some good mixing here. Be careful by putting the same things together here. They need to be saying